Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, Executive Editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with another in our series of Rarities. Major artists do unusual repertoire and do it superbly well. And I've done a talk on this work before, but I want to give it another plug because I think it's really so wonderfully beautiful. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous, and it deserves to return to our standard repertoire, our general listening. And I just did a talk where I said, well, not everything deserves that, but this does. The piece in question is Goldmark's Rustic Wedding Symphony, played by Leonard Bernstein with the New York Philharmonic. Now, Goldmark was one of those composers, he was, whatever his dates here, I'm sure they have it. Yes, Engelbert Humperdinck. Now, there's a lot of stuff on here. Karl Goldmark, 1830 to 1915. Ooh, he had a long and productive life. He wrote a good bit of music. It's pretty music. It's romantic music. It's lovely music. It's quite splendid. I mean, he was erased at the beginning of the 20th century, largely because of his Jewish origins, naturally, in Germany and whatnot. But, and also because he wasn't considered to be in that horrible nationalist period. He was sort of quasi-German, quasi-Hungarian, quasi-whatever. It doesn't matter. Whatever he was good at it. And he was known for basically three works. His violin concerto, which is lovely and still gets hauled out every few hundred years, and the big opera, The Queen of Sheba, which is what made his reputation. And it's a lovely work. It doesn't deserve to be completely neglected. But, big romantic grand operas are so out of style these days. Nobody wants to put up with them unless they're Wagner, which, there were lots of other people doing similar stuff and doing it quite well. Let's just put it that way. And then there is the Rustic Wedding Symphony, the Landliche Hochzeit, as it was called in the day. And it's more of a suite in 5 movements than an actual symphony. It has a theme and variations and a gorgeous scherzo and slow movement. No, it's so beautiful. I mean, the music it just oozes innocent, fresh loveliness at every point. It really does. And there was a time at the beginning of the 20th century, conductors who were born in the 19-teens, 20s, and 30s would have known this work because Goldmark was still something of a name then. And he had a nephew, Reuben Goldmark, I think it was his nephew, who actually was in the U.S. and who taught Gershwin and all those people. I mean, the name Goldmark was pretty well known in the U.S. anyway, and it was fairly well known in Europe still in certain pockets. And so it got a lot of recordings from conductors from that era when they were looking for something a little unusual to do. I mean, Abravanel did it, Previn did it. There was even a digital one, I think, with Lopez Cobos. It did not languish in complete and total and utter obscurity. It really didn't. But it's pretty obscure, and it just deserves to be played. I mean, nowadays it's not going to be played because it just isn't grandiose enough. It's not Mahler, it's not Bruckner, it's not, Brahms or Beethoven. It's not our concert life, our live concert life, as I've said before, has been shrinking. Even as the available repertoire on recordings has expanded beyond all belief, because record labels are always looking for something new and interesting to do. It's not the usual stuff that's been recorded 500 times. And then they go back to the usual stuff, of course, because people want the usual stuff. And concert life, on the other hand, because of the way conductors operate, only being in one place for a short amount of time and then flying around with the same programs that they play everywhere, all over the place, it's restricting what we can do. And because, people want to come in and only do like blockbuster pieces or a major concerto with a major name soloist. And, conductors who have the freedom and luxury to do repertoire, really dig into the repertoire, are very, very few and far between. And it's a shame. It makes our musical life so vastly less interesting. I can only speak personally. I mean, I have virtually stopped going to concerts because I find the programming to be so boring. Especially, being here in New York, with touring orchestras, they always come in and they always come in with the same stuff. And if they come from some exotic location, they'll find some modern novelty by a contemporary composer, and they'll stuff that on the usual program of Bruckner or Mahler or whatever. I don't want to hear that stuff anymore. I would much rather hear Goldmark's Rustic Wedding Symphony. I really would. I think that would be a wonderful change of pace, and I think the audiences would enjoy it tremendously. But that's me. What can I say? The only other thing I can say is that Bernstein and the New York Phil made an absolutely terrific recording of it. It's on this Bernstein Century disc, which God knows if it's still around, probably not. And you get a couple Slavonic dances with it, and Humperdinck's Children's Prayer from Hansel and Gretel, and 3 dances from The Bartered Bride, all wonderfully performed. But it's the Goldmark, that it's the pièce de résistance that we all want to hear. And so if you don't know the work, Karl Goldmark, the Rustic Wedding Symphony. I mean, even look at this album. Look at it. What does it say? It says Dvorak. There's only 2 Slavonic dances on the whole damn disc by Dvorak. It's Goldmark. It's the Rustic Wedding Symphony. But they knew they weren't going to be able to sell it, and they had this extra Bernstein repertoire, these rarities, and they wanted to stuff them on a disc somewhere. So if any insane person bought this to hear 2 Slavonic dances, what you got was a feast in the form of the Rustic Wedding Symphony. And, it says so much, doesn't it? Just by itself. Just look at that. About where we are musically and what record labels think and how classical music is marketed and sold to us. And now it's all available for streaming. Stream it. Listen to it. You're going to love it. It's just delicious. Trust me. It's a fabulous, fabulous piece of music. So anyway, keep on listening, friends. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care.